All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday to everyone out there. We got a full MLB slate on today, July 28th. Like we always do, we're gonna go through each and every game on today's slate. I'm gonna give you my thoughts, I'll give you my lean or leans on the games, but all my final plays, what I ultimately end up rolling with myself. If you do want to fade me, those plays will be in the pinned comment. Coming off of a nice little 1-0 day yesterday. Yes, it's just one play, but I didn't really want to force it with only 5 games yesterday, and 2 of those games being a doubleheader. You guys know how I feel about doubleheaders. For whatever weird reason, I don't like them. So we only pulled the trigger on one game, but we cashed and it was plus 100, so I'll definitely take that. Unfortunately, our ride of the day from Ole here does not come through. Wasn't really their fault though. Like this was one that probably had a good chance of hitting, and then right away it was just weird as all hell from the beginning of that game. So obviously, if you didn't watch it, Miles Mikolas pitches 2 outs and then gets ejected, and then the Cubs score a bunch. It's just a weird game. So we have to drop the womp womp because it was a loss, but you can't really predict the starter getting ejected in the first inning. But guys, if you do want to be the ride of the day, use hashtag ride of the day in the comments. And I'm going to be picking one person in the comments, and I'm jumping on board with them. And you guys will get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Hopefully we get the win. Let's get back in the W column, guys. Go ahead and drop some locks in the comments. And let's get to today's slate here. First game up, we're looking at the Marlins taking on the Tigers here. Marlins, in their last 10 games here, they're 2-8, but they started to look a little bit better in their last 3 games or so. You could make the argument they looked really good, beating Tampa Bay 7-1, but I'd almost argue that Tampa Bay just looks like one of the worst teams right now, which is absolutely absurd. And then in their last 10 here for Detroit, they've won 4 of their last 10. On the mound for the Marlins is going to be Braxton Garrett today, and on the mound for Detroit is going to be Reese Olson. This is a weird one where I'm looking at this, I'm like, all right, Miami minus 150 has to be the play, right? They just have to be the play. They have the better pitcher. They are the better team, even though they haven't been playing like it. But I kind of want to just fade myself in a sense, because I feel like everybody and their grandmother is going to be on the Marlins today. But this Detroit team, coming off of getting swept by the Angels, prior to that, they were actually winning some ball games. So prior to that, in their last 7, they had won 4 of their last 7 for more than 50%. So I don't know if this becomes a final play, but I'm actually going to lean towards the away underdog here. Detroit plus 130. It's crazy. I don't think it makes into a final play, but I do think that, that might be where the value is today. I don't think I want to pay minus 150 for, yes, a Marlins team starting to look better, but still a Marlins team that isn't proven as of late. And then in terms of the total 7.5, we've seen this Detroit offense, score 6 runs and then 0 runs, very, very inconsistent, and same exact thing with Miami. So I don't really know where this game comes out, so I don't have a strong lean on the total. If anything, I would follow the money and look at the under here. 86% of the money is on the under right now, whereas the percent of bets are 50-50. So if we want to follow the sharps, follow the money, we could do that, but that's just some context there. I don't know how strongly I feel about that under. All right, next up, we're looking at the Pirates taking on the Phillies here. Mitch Keller on the mound for the Pirates. Then in terms of who we got for Philadelphia is going to be Zach Wheeler here. I do think that this is kind of a fair pitching matchup. Mitch Keller, I would have said towards the beginning of the year, playing way, way better. But as of late, that ERA is up to 3.8 in his last 5 starts. The team is 1-4 in his last 5 starts. Whereas Zach Wheeler, who you can't ultimately totally trust, he's been pitching a little bit better than, I guess you could say, his season average. Last 5 games, 3.2 ERA. Whereas on the season, he's got a 3.88 ERA. I will say this, I'm not looking at this from a pitching perspective. I'm looking at this from an offensive perspective, where Phillies bat righties way better than the Pirates do. Both these pitchers are righties. Phillies averaging almost 5 runs per 9 innings here, just under 7 hits per 9, and batting over 250 against righties. So I'm looking at this from an offensive standpoint and leaning towards the Phillies. The price tag is minus 150 right now, a little bit too high for me, but nonetheless, Phillies playing decent baseball, we could say, right? Coming out of winning their 3 of their last 4, 2 of the 3 against Baltimore. Baltimore's a good team, so they kind of grinded those wins out as well. So I lean towards the Phillies on the money line. In terms of the total, 8.5. Though I said these pitchers aren't going to be much or anything like that, I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a double-digit type game. So I'm going to slightly lean towards the under 8.5 as well. If either one of these pitchers kind of pitch at their peak performance, we could still see the Phillies win this game like 4-2 and stay well under that sort of double-digit number, or 9 in this case. All right, next up, we're looking at the Orioles taking on the Yankees. On the hill for the Orioles today is going to be Grayson Rodriguez. He's 2-2 with a 6.91 ERA and a 1.6 WHIP. Not looking all that great. You could say he's been pitching better as of late in his last 5 starts, but even still, that ERA is closer to 5. They've won only 2 of the last 5 starts for him. Going up against Garrett Cole, he's got a 9-2 record, 2.78 ERA, a 1.08 WHIP, and that's kind of where my analysis on this game is going to stop. You're giving me Grayson Rodriguez against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole, one of the better pitchers, obviously, in the league, and you're looking at only minus 125 on New York money line. I'm going to take that. I think that, there's value there, whether or not the Yankees are playing well or not. They are actually playing well, but they did have, the 3 games against Kansas City. That's kind of inflating their recent games here, winning 4 of their last 5, 3 of those 4 wins against Kansas City. But nonetheless, that's some value to get Garrett Cole on the bump. And you can make the argument here, the Orioles, they bat righties fine. It's like their last 10 games here against righties, they have a 192 batting average. They're not batting righties well as of late. So give me Garrett Cole, even though he kind of got shelled by them earlier in the season. That was back in May, a couple months back. Nonetheless, I'm still riding with it. Yankees on the money line here is going to be my lean. And then in terms of the total, 8.5 is a pretty interesting number to me. We saw, I think it was like 6-5, 5 to, it was like 6-5, 6-4, something like that. Double digits game last time that Garrett Cole did end up pitching against Baltimore here. I don't think that he's going to let up 6 runs or 5 runs again, but we have seen very high scoring games between these two teams. In fact, in the last 10 here, 7 of them have gone over, right? And 1 was a push. So I guess I lean towards the over, but obviously my main lean in this one is going to be backing Cole and the Yankees at minus 125 on the money line. All right, guys, next game up, we have the Blue Jays taking on the Angels. Before we do that, I do want to talk to you guys about the Fade Me store. Tons of new products over there. If you do want to go and support the brand and support what we're doing, pick up some merch, fademe.store. We'll put that link in the pinned comment as well. Like I said, tons of new stuff over there, and we're still offering a 20% off discount if you use code 20FADE. So 20FADE. Head over there, use the link in the description or the pinned comment. You can pick up some cool Fade Me merch, guys. So Toronto taking on the Angels here. Gosman on the bump for Toronto. He's 7-5, a 3.1 ERA with a 1.12 ERA, whip, excuse me. And then Giolito on the mound, whatever it is, frozen yogurt on the mound for the Angels. I think it's his first start for the Angels since being traded. He is 6-6 with a 3.8 ERA and a 1.22 whip. My lean in this game is going to come strictly from where these odds are. I do see the Angels playing good baseball. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. Has the competition been deadly? Not necessarily, but they are beating teams with some command. So I'm going to lean towards them because it's plus 172 on the money line. Now, I understand that Toronto has their best pitcher going, and Toronto very well could win this game, okay? But Kevin Gosman is swaying these odds here because Toronto has won 6 of their last 10, so they're playing decent baseball, right? Taking, was it 2 of 3 against the Dodgers? Like, shout out to them. But 190, minus 190, way too much of a price tag for a Toronto team that were not so far from being removed from them kind of in the shitter, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't playing that good just a couple weeks back. So give me the Angels here on the money line for plus 172. I think there's some serious value there, and I'm not even the biggest, like I've told you guys multiple times this year that I think the Angels are slightly overrated, but plus 172, there is value there. And then in terms of the total 8.5, both these offenses have been scoring a lot of runs, so I can't help but look at the over. The only thing that would deter me from that is the idea that Gosman can do what Gosman can do, so hopefully that's not the case, because I do think that this Angels team is going to score a decent amount of runs today, and they are going to win the game, and I have a feeling Toronto's got to get to Giolito to some degree. So give me the over 8.5 as well, but I like that Angels money line play here, plus 172. Really good odds there. All right, Mets taking on Washington here. Scherzer on the mound for the Mets. Though he's had his ups and downs this year, coming off of a game, his last start, which he got shelled by the Red Sox, which is kind of an anomaly. But last time he did get shelled, which was by San Diego, he went out there and pitched 7 innings, no runs against the Dodgers. So I think that he bounces back again today. We're going to back the Mets here. Minus 190 is a little bit too much of a price tag, but I don't hate them in some sort of a parlay throw-in. And it is Friday, so make sure you guys comment if you do want a Friday parlay. We haven't hit one in a couple weeks, but nonetheless, we've hit 2 of our 5 this season, so we're already kind of golden and playing with house money for a while here. One of them that we hit was plus 753, if you guys recall that. So let me know in the comments if you do want a Friday parlay. I could see the Mets money line being in here as they go up against Mackenzie Gore, who is kind of the opposite of what we've seen with Scherzer. He just came off of a no runs allowed 5 innings pitched game just 5 days ago. I don't think that he puts 2 of those back to back, you know what I mean? So I do like the spot where Scherzer bounces back and then Mackenzie Gore comes back to reality. Oop, there goes gravity type of thing, you know. So give me the Mets on the money line, but it would have to be in some sort of parlay format. And then in terms of a total here, we're sitting at 8.5. I don't really love either side of this, but if I had a gun to my head, I don't, luckily. I would still lean towards the over ever so slightly, just because we saw a 2-1 game yesterday. Clearly, I'm thinking that these are, you know, teams and pitchers that are going to kind of do the opposite of what they've most recently done, which, you know, take with that what you will. But I lean towards the over ever so slightly, but I do like the Mets on the money line today. In fact, it could be an individual play, but minus 190 is way too much juice to be paying. All right, White Sox taking on the Guardians. Cleveland actually just announced their starter. Curry's on the mound for them. He's 3-0 this season with a 1.12 whip and a near 3 ERA, but 2.87. So we'll give credit where it is due. Going up against Toussaint, who, you know, hasn't been all that great. 0-3, 4.2 ERA with a 1.4 whip. This one, we don't have, you know, the best odds on the Cleveland side of things. We are looking at them minus 144 right now. Remember, they were plus 100 yesterday. We capitalized on it. They win that game 6-3. I'm running it back. I like Cleveland on the money line again today, but the odds just aren't as good as I'd like to see them. So we'll see if that becomes the final play, but I do like it. And then we have a total of 10. Huh? You know what I mean? Like, that went from 7.5 yesterday, which I get it. The pitchers on the mound was BB and then Cease yesterday. Like, totally different than what we're looking at from Toussaint and obviously Curry here. But 10 seems a little bit too high for my liking. Even with these offenses, both I can give them independently in their last 10 year, have been kind of cooking and playing some decent baseball. The White Sox obviously less so, but this Cleveland team scoring a lot of runs. But nonetheless, 10 is way too high here, and it's way too much of a jump from yesterday. Even yesterday was a 6-3 game, and that was a lot of runs. You know what I mean? So regardless of the pitching, I don't care if you have worse pitchers today. 10 seems a little bit too high for me. So it's kind of under or pass, but I'm probably passing on it, to be completely honest. But yeah, I like Cleveland on the money line. Again, I just wish we had better odds. I wish we had those you know, near minus 120-ish versus minus 144, and I expect them to get even worse as the day progresses. All right, next up, we got the Braves taking on the Brewers here. Braves hosting them, but they have been struggling as of late. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games here, and the Brewers are heavy underdogs at plus 158, so I don't necessarily want to look at that and say, oh, we got to ride with the Brewers, but I think this is going to be a closer game than we expect, so I do like the Brewers here on the run line. You're getting minus 120 odds over on Caesars right now for plus 1.5, and the Brewers, when underdogs at plus 1.5, they've covered that in 8 of their last 10, and in 3 straight here. They have Hauser on the mound for them today. He's just kind of a middle-of-the-road guy, right? I think the Braves will probably get to him, but I'm hoping that the Brewers can get to Chirinos on the mound for the Braves. Obviously not really the best talent that they have per se. So that being said, I also do like the over in this one as well, but it's 10, which we just got finished talking about. I feel like that's a really high number. So I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored today, but I don't think I can get myself to, you know, nut up and pull the trigger on 10 because it just is a little bit too high for, you know, obviously the Braves have that in the tank, right? But they haven't really been scoring that many runs as of late. And we saw these two teams just played, you know, about a week ago or so. The Braves took 2 of those, but 3 of those games stayed at 10 or lower. So all the way across the board. One was a push to this number, and the other 2 were well under it. So I'm going to lean towards the under here. Excuse me, I'm going to lean towards the over just because I do think that, you know, both of these teams have it in the tank, scored a lot of runs, but it's a high number. So, and we saw like I just told you guys, the trend of the last 3 between these two teams have been at that number or under. Makes it hard to pull the trigger and swallow the fact that we're looking at a double-digit total. So main lean here is going to be Milwaukee plus 1.5 on the run line. I wish the total was right around like 9 or so because then I'd pull the trigger on the over. But having to get to 11 runs to win this one, especially when they have not been trending in that direction, a little tough pill to swallow. All right, you got the Houston Astros taking on the Tampa Bay Rays here. Tampa Bay, like we talked about, has just been absolutely struggling, but they do have McClanahan on the mound today. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. They got blown out by Miami a couple days back. Houston's kind of on the flip side, playing really good baseball, winning 7 of their last 10 here. They took 2 of 3 against Texas in all kind of different ways. They did get smoked in the last game, but nonetheless, I do look at Tampa Bay here and saying, okay, they should be blacklisted. I said it in the video. Like, I should not want to bet the Rays, but you do have McClanahan on the bump, and they're minus 110. You know what I mean? Like, you got one of the best pitchers in the league, but their best pitcher for sure, with minus 110 odds. I'm gonna lean towards Tampa Bay. Can I get myself to pull the trigger on that? We will see, but I do think that, you know, Tampa Bay's got the better bullpen. They got the better starter. The only thing that they don't have right now is playing good baseball, you know what I mean? Which is a pretty important thing, I can admit, but overall, it's just like they have been struggling. At some point, they got to dig themselves out of this hole, and I don't know if today is the day, but I do think that, you know, for minus 110, that's some value taking McClanahan and the Rays, no matter who if you just like close your eyes and flash back to a month ago, right, or maybe a month and a half ago, and you're like, hey, you're gonna have the Rays, McClanahan, and minus 110 odds, you would not even ask who they're playing. You would pull the trigger on that, right? So I'm trying to keep it in that, like keep my mind in a vacuum and say, hey, this is still a good team. They're just in a slump, but, you know, keep shooting, right? Keep shooting your shot. Maybe that could shoot us in the foot, because that's what happened against Miami. But nonetheless, give me the Rays on the money line. Total sitting at 8.5 here. I do think that this is a Rays team that obviously I'm believing in them somewhat bouncing back. So give me the over, even though that really hasn't been their trend. I think in their last 10 games, if you took I would say maybe $100. It's like I saw it earlier on social media. It was like if you bet $100 on the Rays every single game for their last 10, you would be down like $700 right now, which is obviously kind of crazy, because even when they're winning, they're not winning that much because they've still been big favorites type of thing. But nonetheless, give me the Rays on the money line. Total at 8.5. I do think that this one goes up and over because I'm believing in that Tampa Bay offense to put up some runs today, and Houston obviously has been scoring a lot of runs, so give me the over as well. All right, Kansas City taking on Minnesota here. This feels like it could be a trap because you're getting Minnesota right now at minus 150 against this Kansas City team. Well, obviously Kansas City is going to Kansas City, right? They're going to do what they do, which is just play bad baseball. And you have Minnesota who, yes, they lost their latter two against the Mariners there, but they've still won 6 of their last 4. They're not playing terrible baseball. You have Gray on the mound for them today. Sonny Gray, he needs to kind of step it up too in what he's doing. But again, this is such a get-right spot for the Twins playing against this Royals team for minus 150. It is a lot of juice, but I could totally see that being a final play. It just seems too easy. Like, is it a trap? Then in terms of the total, 9.5. What we can say is this Minnesota offense has been, you know, crushing it lately. They're averaging plenty of runs here. So give me the over, but I could also consider Minnesota's team total, which we cashed just a couple days ago. I think it was over 4, and they scored 7 runs. Like, no sweat, right? So perhaps that could be a play too. So keep an eye on the pinned comment, see what we end up rolling with. But I like Minnesota on the money line, and I also don't mind looking at their team total if we can get some good odds at, you know, say 4, 4.5, that type of thing. All right, guys, before we continue with the slate, I do want to talk to you guys about Outlier. I know you've probably heard about it before, but if you haven't pulled the trigger and signed up over there, you're actually missing out on such a good tool. When people ask, like, oh, what's your process? But, you know, what do you do? How do you find the plays that you like? Literally, Outlier is the starting point, guys. 7-day free trial with the link in the description. I'll also put the link in the pinned comment, but it is incredible for player props, for building parlays, for finding those game picks and looking at team trends. If you can understand green means good, red means bad, then you can use Outlier to your benefit. Start betting on sports smarter today. Go check it out. 7 days free. I know that, you know, they probably don't like me saying this, but even if you just sign up for 7 days and then you're like, okay, whatever, I'll cancel it after 7 days. Sure, go do it, but use the 7 days that they're throwing your way right now. And I would argue that even if you have that mindset of, I'm going to sign up for 7 days and then, you know, not want to continue and pay, you're going to be like, crap, I love this tool so much. It's going to be worth it. It's $20 per month, $19.99, and literally will pay for itself in no time. I use it every single day, and I couldn't be more, happy with the tool and the direction they're going in. I've been on calls with them when they talk about their future enhancements and whatnot. These guys are hungry. They want the best sports research tool in the market, and they're pretty much the best sports research tool in the market. So they're only competing with themselves at this point, which is going to get better and better. So go check out Outlier. Use the link in the description or the pinned comment. You will not be disappointed with the product. I promise you that. Seriously, guys, go check it out. All right, the game we're looking at now is going to be the Cubs taking on the Cardinals. We don't know who's on the mound for the Cubs yet, so can't necessarily tell you any odds or what we're looking at from a total perspective, but yesterday's total was 9.5. That game went over. The Cubs won 10-3. If the Cubs are underdogs again today, I'm going to pull the trigger on them. Montgomery's on the mound for the Cardinals. It's not like he's anything super special, and the Cubs bat lefties fairly well, so I'm going to look at the Cubs on the money line, but again, we want to see what those odds are ultimately going to come to. 9.5, maybe I lean towards the over again, because this Cubs offense, when they play the Cardinals, last 3 games, 8 runs scored, 7 runs scored, 10 runs scored, and this Cubs offense just in general, last few games here, 8, 7, 7, 10, 10, like they're scoring a lot of runs, so I'm going to let the cook here, leaning towards the Cubs as well as the over. All right, this game, this is my breakdown. Rockies taking on the A's. We don't know who's pitching for the A's yet, so we don't have any odds, opening odds, anything like that, but I don't really care. Like I guess the only thing that I'd look at is this total is probably going to be pretty high because it's in Colorado, and you know, the elevation on that, it's like altitude. Like, who cares? These are two god-awful teams. Give me the under if it's anything at like 11.5. But other than that, I'm not really considering what's going on. I also don't really care that much about who's pitching for the A's, because neither side of this would be like, oh, I like the money line here. Like, no, these are two bad teams playing bad baseball. So, you know, I'm going to look at the under if it is one of those super high Colorado unders totals. But nonetheless, you know, they could go out there and be like, well, these are two bad teams and we know that, so let's make it like a 9 total type of thing. So we'll see where the total comes out to, but that's the only thing I could truly envision myself being like, yeah, I could get myself to make a play on this game. All right, Diamondbacks taking on the Mariners. I do think that this could be a spot for some value on the Diamondbacks right now at home. Plus 120 are the odds. Do I like the Seattle team? Yes, they have Gilbert on the mound too, who has been pitching really well. They've won 4 of his last 5 starts. He's got a 2.4 ERA over that stretch, but Henry's kind of pitching well as well, you know, a 1.6 ERA over his last 5. But like I said, the value I think is that plus money at home here for the Diamondbacks, who are batting righties really, really well. 286 average in their last 5 games here. And really just playing well and batting, you know, righties well at home on the season. So give me them. Like I said, I also like this Mariners team. I like kind of the direction that they're starting to go in. You know, they won those last 2 games against Minnesota. So I do think that, you know, for what it's worth, I would say that this is very much a lean on the Diamondbacks. Like, I don't envision this being something that I can muster up the confidence in. I just like that price tag is plus 120 right now at home while they're playing against, you know, a handed pitcher that they hit well as of late. So I'm going to probably leave this at a lean. Total sitting at 9 runs. The way that the Seattle team's been scoring, and even the Diamondbacks for at least their last series having 6 or more runs in 2 of those 3 games, I could see this one going over. But again, even though the offensive has been playing really well, you have 2 pitchers that are pitching better than normal as well. So probably going to lean towards the over in this one, but you can tell by how I'm trying to explain this, these probably stay at leans. It is definitely the direction that I'm leaning in, but I do think that, you know, in terms of chance to be a final play, I don't know how much I consider either of these plays. All right, we got San Diego taking on the Rangers. Texas, I look at this and I'm like, wow, I'm all over this. Like, plus 140 for a Texas team right now. So pretty much a quick breakdown here. I like Texas. I like them scoring a lot of runs. They have been scoring plenty of runs here. They have Dane Dunning on the mound today. He got shelled in his last start, but that's against the Dodgers team that absolutely went off against them. For plus 140, I don't think you can beat this value. In fact, I'm almost like, is this a trap? You know, Padres minus 165. Texas plus 140. What's going on here? So yeah, whatever, whether it's a trap or not, we can, you know, to be determined type of thing. But man, I like the Texas Rangers here plus 140. And I will say this, guys, if you're still watching at the 22-minute mark, you know what to comment. Drop a 2-2 in the comments if you're still watching, so we can suss out the real ones versus the guppies. So go ahead, comment 22 if you guys are still watching. In terms of a total in this game, I like the over 8 runs as well. Again, maybe I'm just not seeing something here, because this should be, you know, such an easy bet for Texas here, plus 140. If they were like minus 130, then yeah, we could consider it, you know, altogether. But it's not like this Padres team is pitching or playing very well. They have Musgrove on the mound. It's not like he's pitched ultimately, you know, incredibly well in the last, you know, 10 starts or so. So little fishy. Like, this could be a trap, but I'm willing to get in this trap, because plus 140 for a Texas team seems really, 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 really good to consider there. And then, like I said, the over. If I think Texas is going to cakewalk through this game, score a lot of runs, 8 runs also seems fairly low. So give me Texas and the over. Maybe it's square. Maybe I'm not seeing something, I'm not reading between the lines, but I don't care. Give me Texas and the over. All right, Dodgers taking on Cincinnati. This is a tough one because the odds are so poor here. If you like, you know, the Dodgers, which I think I do lean towards the Dodgers, but minus 225, a little bit too much juice, if I do say so myself. In Cincinnati, though they're starting to play better baseball, didn't look as good as they probably should have against Milwaukee. But now Milwaukee does own them, right? Like, we know that. They put them on the leash. They go and say, hey, go poo-poo, and we'll bring you back inside afterwards, as they dog walk through that series again. But plus 205, like, I'm reading these lines here and saying, okay, you know, the sports books and odds makers are not that dumb. Like, why are they plus 205? If people are like, oh my God, that's crazy value for a good team, sure, but at some point it is like a long shot play, right? Like, I don't think Cincinnati has an edge here, and you'd still be able to get plus 205 odds. So maybe, if anything, if you like Cincinnati, take the safety net of plus 1.5 right now, because it is even odds over on FanDuel. So even that is still, you know, you have a little bit of a safety net and you're still getting plus money in a sense. But yeah, I like the Dodgers. I think that they can win this one, but my main lean here is going to be towards the over 9.5. For these two teams, obviously Cincinnati's cooled off the bats a little bit, but again, it was against Milwaukee. There's something going on there. It's their kryptonite, right? They still were scoring a lot of runs before, and this Dodgers team, they scored 1 run against Toronto in that series finale. They can't do that again, right? They got to get back to scoring 1,000,000 runs like they were. So give me the over. That's probably my main lean in this game, I would say. But yeah, I could also consider the Dodgers on the money line just because odds makers must know something here, pricing them at that, knowing everyone's going to be like, oh, Cincinnati's playing good baseball, let's take them. No, something going on with that line. All right, San Francisco taking on Boston. Boston playing good baseball. They swept, mini sweep, I guess, the Braves there. They win 2 of those. They've won 4 straight games, and they've won 6 of their last 10 games. So they're playing good baseball. And like I tell you guys all the time, like this Red Sox team is going to go in waves of playing really good and playing so bad. They beat the good teams. They lose to the bad teams. Where this Giants team is, kind of in the middle of that, like, are they a good team or a bad team, right? So, not sure exactly what's going to happen in this game, but Red Sox underdogs here, plus 126 in this one. Cutter Crawford on the mound, who has been pitching well in his last 5 starts. He's got a 2.6 ERA, and that's with letting up 4 runs against the Mets in his last start. Prior to that, keeping it down even lower. So, I'm going to go towards the Red Sox in terms of a lean. Plus 126 seems like some good value. And then in terms of the total 7.5, I also don't understand why this is so low, because this Red Sox team, when they start playing good baseball, they cook and they score a lot of runs, and they're in the middle of that right now. But like I said, it is a bunch of roller coaster action, right? This could be where it's the Red Sox are here. They take those 2 against the Braves. Now they go and play San Francisco, and they're going to go type of thing. So be mindful of that if you are on the Red Sox and you do end up rolling with that yourself. That is my lean in this one, both the over and the Red Sox on the money line. But we're just 1 game away from the Red Sox being bad again. Like, and I believe that. I'm a Red Sox fan. I watch all their games. They're not consistent, and if they are going to be consistent, then they'll keep playing like the best team in baseball, right? But at some point, I do think the wheels will fall off. It's about being, getting out ahead type of thing. So we're kind of risking it here because, like I said, they beat good teams, lose to bad teams. This San Francisco team is fringe bad, So nonetheless, Red Sox plus 126 and the over 7.5. And that is all I have for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. Keep an eye out for the parlay. If you guys do want a parlay, go ahead and comment that in the comments. I think, odds are you guys are going to want it, so I'll start cooking one up and working on it. But yeah, catch you guys in the next video, all right? Peace out.